Welcome to The Chat. Come behind the inbound scenes of some of the world's fastest growing companies. For the past 10 years as Chatmetrics, we've had an exclusive inside view of how these industry leaders are revolutionising inbound marketing and sales across diverse sectors. Each week, we bring you conversations with top minds in marketing and sales who share insider secrets and strategies for driving inbound success. Join us on The Chat, your front row seat to the future of inbound. Hi, welcome back to The Chat, and continuing my conversation today with James Hanzimanolis. We move beyond his conversation about transitioning into sales and now much more into the strategy and tips and tactics to actually start growing the business. So sit back and hope you enjoy. Shutting down your outbound agency, I'm sure, was probably a significant decision, particularly given, how driven you are. I know you are. What were the biggest challenges you faced during that transition, and how did you overcome them? And I'm not just talking from a business perspective. I'm sure, personally you'd had to deal with some stuff there as well.
Um, I'm the kind of person where I love my family to death and I work really, really hard for them. They also need me a lot. When I was working those 7-day shifts, like my newborn, I never saw her. I would
Mm.
see her for like an hour and I'd be off to work again or I'd fall asleep or whatever. When I was working my outbound agency, it was 100% on me. Everything I was doing was me. I was cold calling. I was managing all my clients. I was doing the listening to people complain and whine about lead quality. And if we're being real about it, some people might say, oh, that sounds terrible. I should never open up an outbound agency. I'm going to give you some tips here. You should absolutely open up an outbound agency if you like cold calling and all that great stuff. It works really, really well. Savage Outbound is free somewhere. That's my book. Please read it. And I talk about some of the mistakes I make in there. But some of the more obvious stuff, pick really good clients. Like, don't just take anybody. You want to have clients who are going to be honest with you. They're going to tell you if leads show up. I've had my Stripe account, my Square account both shut down on me because I've had clients lie and say, oh, I never received my leads, which wasn't true. They did, they were good qualified. Dispute shut my account down. I'm missing rent, all that crappy stuff. It sucked. And, pick really good clients, have a really good system figured out. Do free work in the very beginning, because if you do free work, then you're able to easily convert those people into paid leads after a month, or you get referrals or a testimonial at the very least, which is awesome. I can go on here. There's a lot of things you should do. Be picky, be pricey, and like it. Outbound is like buying from. It's like taking candy from a baby. Honestly, it's like everybody wants it. They'll hire you. It's really easy to make money at it. But I didn't know how to scale it at the time, and so I'm working like 12 hours a day again. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm never around my family. I'm literally locked in the bedroom, cold calling all day. For some people, that's fine. If you have 2 kids and a wife and you work from home, it's not really ideal. And so I made that quit. I made that shift. I usually do my ghost running at night now. Like I'll work all
Mm.
day and I'll do sales calls or whatever, but I'll usually allocate like an hour or two at night just to write for my clients. And if I do that, everybody's happier. I also wake up before everybody. I'm the first one up in the house. Wake up, make my coffee, sit down, write, and then get some work done. And, finding that balance of, I made a post about this the other day, talking about work life balance. But for me, the biggest thing has been working when it makes sense for me to work, which is the beauty of being your own boss.
It is. It is. And look, that's a great learning. One of the big things I think I took away from that comment then was about the ability to scale or not to scale. When you're stuck in something and doing it all yourself, one of the most critical things in being able to grow a business is to be able to build processes and systems and ways of doing work that you can actually delegate. Outbound is a very difficult thing, particularly when you get to cold calling. And sure, there's some people that can do it very well, but they're few and far between. It's a very, very niche area. There's plenty of people that do it, they'll try and do it, but to do it successfully and actually deliver results, these days everything's harder than it used to be. Email boxes are full of spam and rubbish that you've got to wade through. People are used to getting phone calls from random numbers, and to the extent where they don't answer anymore, where they used to answer in the past. So everything's getting harder. There's things you can do, as you know now, that will help scale that. But the frustration of not being able to scale and having to do everything yourself must have been Well, it was obviously enough for you to change your entire business model.
Yeah, I mean, again, like looking back at it, it was totally scalable. I just was too stupid to do it. You know, you charge someone $500 a lead, and you expect them to pay it all. You expect them not to dispute it. And it just doesn't work that way. And so I was
Mm.
talking to a good friend of mine the other day who has a much more successful outbound agency than I had. He's got a whole staff. He's like, yeah, we outsource to Latin America for our calls. We have a really good tech stack because we partner with them, so we don't have to pay for the tech. And he figured out a way to minimize all of his tech expenses while maximizing the performance of his team. And then because he's picked a niche audience inside of SaaS, he's able to charge a lot more. And I'm like, why? Like, I knew these things after reading the books and listening to the advice of others. I'm like, niche down, charge a premium, have a high retain, like all these different things. You don't think about it when you're in the middle of it because you're like, I just need the money to keep this thing afloat. But if you're just treading water and you're trying to get those quick wins, you're always going to be treading water. The other thing, too, which we talked about before this, is you need to get a bigger client, at least one bigger client. I've luckily locked down one client that I mean, this one client, despite having, I think I'm working with like 6 or 7 companies right now, covers half of the money that we're making.
Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, yeah. It's so true. Yeah, I mentioned before as well that a lot of we get approached by a lot of agencies to help with conversion rates on their clients' websites. But the reality is, even over many agencies that I see, they've only got one sort of key client, one strategic client. The rest are quite small and difficult to manage. I mentioned before. I mean, we've even had a couple of conversations with some PE firms, but it's when you're dealing with a lot of smaller businesses, it's a lot harder to manage. It's a bit like herding cats. You're trying to get everybody heading in the one direction and doing the same thing, and it's quite difficult. It's a lot easier to close one big deal than it is to try and close 30 or 40 smaller ones. So, I mean, look, we've made some changes ourselves, and we've got our standard offer and the standard approach, but we've brought in like a tier two offer now that's almost like a SaaS sign up where it's no touch. It's no touch, so you can get the service at a much lower rate in terms of a monthly cost. It's the same, effectively the same, if you want to put it in terms of cost per chat, it's the same cost per chat as what we charge out on a cost per lead basis. But the only difference is that we're able to scale it down because we don't put in all of the huge setup costs in our business at the upfront side. So that's been interesting, and we'll see how that goes. We haven't really launched it yet. Soft launch, few couple of conversations. We've had about 12 signups so far, seem to be going okay. There's been a couple of instances where we've seen that what we thought from the outside looked okay. On the inside, it's not so palatable for us because of the level of effort that's going now in terms of managing the account ongoing. So look, I won't let that go on for too long. We'll have some conversations about changing the structure of those moving forward. But yeah, dipping your toe into those different markets as you're changing is certainly interesting. And look, what prompted us to do that is we've had some approaches from small businesses over the last 12 months that we've said no to and turned away. So my business partner and I pal sat down and had a bit of a chat about, because he was always keen to have an offer that our philosophy is that we're people first business. Small businesses probably need our service more realistically. It will certainly get much more benefit as you're talking about. Your first one or two leads. It's getting those first couple of clients that really make the big differences. And that's where we sort of sit with those small guys. The big guys are, they're getting there 30, 40, 50, 100, 400 leads a month. It's just a machine and an engine that's turning over, that's working. Well, when you work with the smaller businesses, it's like they're putting the spray in the carburetor to try and get things kicking over. And so it's good. I enjoy working with businesses at both levels. Actually, the enterprise is where I've come from, both enterprise and entrepreneurial startup environment, and I enjoy both. In fact, one of the things I really enjoy about both is being able to share learnings both ways. There's things that enterprise can teach startups, and there's things that startups can teach enterprise as well. So with the rise of AI, and you mentioned that you've built a chat bot, and I have had a look at yours, and look, transparently, one of the reasons I haven't used it so much is, and I have had a little bit of a crack at it, is for that very same reason that you mentioned, that Once you start using something like that, it becomes beige. Everybody's using it. It's all the same type of tool. With the rise of AI and automation in sales in particular, how do you envision the future of sales strategies evolving?
So I see this on like two complete different sides of the spectrum. On one side, everybody is like, use Clay, automate everything, blast your emails, whatever. When I ran those high velocity sales teams, I would always have one dedicated person to blast emails, a specialist who is, for anybody listening, is my good friend Justin Chi, who runs Cold Email Hackers. He would come on jobs with me and be my cold email guy, which was awesome. And then separately, I would have all my SDRs go absolute ape over the phone. They're doing 300, 400 calls a day. Like, I want them calling until they're burnt out. I mean, transparently. And what happens is they get so good at it that they could do 100 calls a day and not feel burnt out. And then they book a couple meetings and I let them go home early. Right. So
Yep.
that's the first part is that could totally work. That high volume, blast the emails, automate everything. That totally works. And for a lot of people, like maybe have that as a layer in your business. But where I really see enterprise selling going is exactly where it's always been, where it's not going to be cold outbound really much at all. Like if it's going to be cold outbound, it's going to be super strategic. One of the campaigns I ran when I was at Phone Burner, I had handwritten a bunch of letters and I sent them out to people. I found their personal addresses online. I actually sent them to their locations. And the response rate in that was awesome because those were accounts I really wanted to get into. Each one was personalized. My hand hurt from writing all the letters all day, but it was totally worth it. And so there are creative ways I reach out to people now. I did, I had a funny campaign I did because I'm a big Photoshop guy. I love creative work like that. I had done all these carousel covers for prospects I wanted to go after, which I think you saw, right? And they
I
were just
did.
absolutely ridiculous. They were so silly, and but they were, in my opinion, pretty good photoshops. And I put those out. That generated, I think, like 7% of my revenue since I did that, or something like that. And it was just so totally worth it. It took me forever to do it, but this, I wish people would stop investing so much into, oh, we need to automate this and do that and have AI do this. When, I mean, really all you need to do is stop at their booth, go knock on their door, go text there. You know, even though texting is illegal, cold texting is illegal in the US, text them over the phone. I mean, whatever. Like, just do something and be human about it. Like,
Hmm.
how people are going to be closing deals. The cold email guys who show their stats on SmartLead or wherever, 2 years ago, they were having awesome replies. Last year, they were pretty good. This year, it's like you see them get cut down to like a 20th of what they used to be. So if I have to put my money into one type of outbound, it's going to be the one that doesn't have any automation at all. I think that's going to be the wave for most companies.
Yeah. So, what part do you see AI playing in future then? Because there's
I'll
difference.
tell you,
Automation is one side of things, but you use it for a whole host of different areas, as do I. Where do you see it really coming to the full?
let's talk about it separately. Where I see AI, where I see automation. For AI, I see it more for account management than anything. I could see, oh, Susie is on quarterly plan. She's been a customer with us for, now 5 seasons. So it's been over a year. Let's talk to her about it and let's see if we can get her an annual plan. And having an agent reach out to say, hey, we noticed that you were been on this plan for 5 quarters. You would have saved this amount. Would you like to do an annual plan with us? We'd like to hop on a call with you to show you, like, some of the differences it would make in pricing or whatever. I could see it in that. For outbound, I don't really see AI at all. I get AI email all the time. They're most of them are in my junk folder. If they're not in my junk folder, I'm like, this is AI written, and I get rid of it. Same deal with the GPT I made. I had zero fear releasing it because I was like, people are going to use it, they're going to get bored with it, and they're going to need a real ghostwriter anyway. The ghostwriters are releasing their own softwares now. You as
Mm,
well. Um, so I don't really see AI doing much for outbound sales at all. I just don't.
mm,
Automation, I use automation for my selling all the time. So I don't automate follow-ups or anything like that. I think everybody's a little bit different. And if you just add that tiny bit of manual flair and personality to it, it just goes miles for you. One thing I automate is I'll have lead magnets I put out on LinkedIn, on Twitter. I don't do any automation on LinkedIn because they'll ban you for it pretty quickly. But on
Yep.
Twitter, it's allowed as long as you're not violating the terms of service. I'll put a lead magnet out. People engage with it. I email or I message them automatically, and I say, by the way, feel free to join my social community. We talk about content creation, that kind of stuff. Pump leads into there, or I'll say, hey, here's my lead magnet, and if you need a legitimate ghostwriter for your business, we'd love to talk with you. Here's my link. That's where I see automation making a play. But the
Yep.
TLDR here, like for people who are like, well, how do I use AI to help me get more sales? Use AI for creative stuff. I wouldn't use AI for writing your emails. Like, use your brain a little bit. It isn't, a lot of people are forgetting how to use their brain with everything AI. And that's my long answer short. Don't use it for outbound.
Yep. Look, I think there's places you can use it to research. I mean, that's probably some of the automations that you can use it for to go and research and find information. Even in doing the research here today, James, you've seen that there's been a couple of questions that haven't aligned, really all that well. Even though you and I know each other, we've got a relationship in the past, and it's really been more a case of a couple of those questions I've had to verify whether they were right on the money or not. And I did use AI to do a bit of research for me. So I think that human, it's probably the best way that I would describe where you'll optimize AI most is to accelerate what you're doing from a human perspective. You can use it to do research, but you're still going to need the human in the front of it.
Yeah.
We're
I
starting
one
to
thing
use it a little bit. Sorry.
so I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say one thing I've been it for a lot, doing it a lot for. Um, if you're a sales leader and you need to make lists, lead lists, account lists, there are all these new AI tools to use. Like there are AI web scrapers, and you could scrape all of your competitors' testimonials, and then you could use ChatGPT to create lookalikes of
Yep.
those companies, and then you could score those leads or those accounts with AI. Again, I just did this for a company. It was a 45,000 leads that they needed, so I put them all into an Excel sheet, and I used AI to do all of it, to scrape, to score, to do all this stuff. They get the list back, and they're like, "Holy shit!" They're like, "We have never had a list this concise in we've just been pulling leads from Seamless, calling them, not getting results. This is an actual comprehensive list that tells us everything we need to know." And
Mm.
so a use case like that, 100%.
Yep.
But for messaging and whatnot, I just don't think it's ever going to get there.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you exactly. And a list like that then can change your business. Quite frankly, it can change your business.
Yeah. I mean, operationally, it's amazing. Operationally, AI is your best friend. There are people who use the guys over at AISDR, they just used ChatGPT to cut their AWS costs by $4,000. They made a post about it the other day. Stories about that all the time. But the amount of research it took me to, for me, it wasn't really like a money save. It was a time save for me when I did this project. I mean, imagine getting 45,000 details in one row in a day. Like I used to have to do data projects when I was in college. I had a professor who used to pay me for it, and I would go from website to website, copy and paste and put it into Excel. It took me forever. And now I'm like, I can literally get these things done in seconds. And so I'm super bullish on AI for anything operationally, especially like sales ops, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, very mindful of the time here. A couple of quick questions to close out with. You're known for your drive and determination. I mean, that is an absolute fact. How do you maintain motivation and continue learning in such a dynamic field? Because it changes and there's new advice and new ideas coming out almost every day.
So I was just having a conversation with someone about this the other day. It's a new client of mine, and we have everything in common for the most part. Most of it is we both had a really, really, really tough spot in our lives at one point. And for me, I actually grew up in a pretty wealthy household. Like my dad was a really successful mortgage broker. He was known really well in the industry. Um, Like we never worried about money or anything like that. When I was 19, he ended up passing away, and there was some complications with his will. I didn't get any of the money. It was a big thing, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I was like I've never worked a W-2 job in my life. I have all these bills to pay in college. He was supposed to pay for it all. The money isn't there like I thought it was, and I was literally on my own. And I'm like, I ended up losing my car, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I was working so many hours while being in school. It got to the point where I was picking whether or not to go to class or pick up an extra shift because I needed the money. This sounds ridiculous. Every week I'd buy 30 pounds of potatoes because it was the cheapest thing I could buy. It was like one of the local foods. And I remember thinking to myself, I never want to go through this again. This is the
Mm.
hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. I used to have to walk to work in a mile and a half, sometimes in 3 feet of snow, sometimes when it's pouring down rain. And so people talk about driving determination. It comes from not having anything. And when you start off with everything and have it taken away, I don't know. That's been my experience, but I feel like that might be harder because you've never been used to it before. And so that was something that like it was almost a blessing in disguise because I don't think I would have had the work ethic that I had today if things continue to be handed down to me.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. Very interesting. Tough, mate. Very tough. Look, a couple of quick questions then, just to finish up with. What's one tool or resource that you can't live without in your daily work?
One tool or resource I can't live without my daily work. Um, I love Bardeen. Bardeen is awesome for automations, for scraping. I really like it a lot. Calendly, I use it every day. Everybody uses Calendly. I feel like that's a cop out. Photoshop, I just if you're struggling to get clients and you have a creative agency, there's so many wacky things you could do with Photoshop and Illustrator if you just learn how to use them at like a really professional level. And it's not as hard as you think it would be. Um, I don't know. I don't use anything that crazy. Some of the stuff that I really need, like I built from scratch. And so I released um, it's like 30 or 40 Google Sheet functions for people to use. And it's 100% free. I don't make any money off of it, but it helps you do the stuff operationally that you would struggle with. Let's say you have a list of phone numbers and you need to split by time zone so your reps aren't calling into the wrong times. It does it for you. Just stuff like that. So I use that quite a bit, especially for list building projects. Um, it really depends on what your use case is. If you're new, or if you're a founder, if you're a sales rep, and you're relatively new in the space, I would say you don't really need much at all. You get a ChatGPT subscription and call it there. There's not
Yeah,
much that you need.
I agree. I agree. If you weren't in sales, and I think I've got a bit of an idea how you might answer this question, but if you weren't in sales, what career path do you think you would have pursued?
If it wasn't in sales, anything in creative. I love stuff. Probably be a designer or something.
I thought that might have been the case. I know you love Photoshop, and I've got to say, I have seen those carousels. They crack me up. If anybody hasn't seen them, they should jump and have a quick look at James's profile to find those carousels. Um, and what's a fun fact about you that most people wouldn't guess?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty boring. I don't know. A fun fact about me that people wouldn't guess. I don't. I dropped all my hobbies, so I don't even have any. I guess one hobby I have. I'm a huge basketball fan. Huge. I'm huge on basketball. I'm huge on good film, and I'm huge on good coffee. Those are like my top three hobbies, if you want to call them hobbies.
Nice, very good, very good. Mate, I reckon it'd be worthwhile working out how many pounds of potatoes you ate while you're in college.
Oh man, you don't realize how versatile potatoes are until you start
I
using
kn-
them for
I
everything.
do. I'm Polack background, so I know
Oh
exactly
yeah,
how good potatoes are
that's what.
and what you
Yeah,
can do with potatoes.
yeah. I'm half Polish,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I hear that.
James, is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't?
I mean, I can go on forever, but I feel like that's all the main stuff.
Yeah. Is there any message that you'd like to finish up with at all in particular? Make sure it gets
Uh,
into the social clips of the posts or anything along those lines. We
yeah,
will grab. What I would like after this, if you wouldn't mind, just shoot me a quick email with those links to the tools. What was the one you mentioned? Bardeck.
yeah. So Bardeen. their client, so I'm biased because but I've been using them forever. I love Bardeen, and there's some new thing. Oh, Condo is really great too. Condo, um, it's like superhuman for LinkedIn, like the
Okay.
inbox man. It's amazing. It is so awesome. There are a couple other tools too, but those are the main ones. Bardeen, Condo, obviously use Photoshop,
Okay.
um,
If you could
all
just
that
send me
kind
a
of
link
stuff.
over of those after we finish the chat here.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as a message goes, something I was thinking about earlier, and I have people reach out to me for this all the time. There are young reps who are new in the space, or maybe they're not new, maybe they've been in it for a while, but they're like, I want to get into social selling too, because all I'm doing is calling over the phone, and I'm only getting so far. And when I started social selling, I started by doing podcasts. I'd invite people onto my podcast. I'd create a graphic for the podcast, post on LinkedIn, and say, "Hey, we have so and so coming on the show," and excuse me, it would be the background, say the Hyper Sales Podcast, and it would have the photo on it, and I edit it. And at the time, I thought it was awesome. Looking back, I'm like, "Oh, this graphic sucked," but I used to love them a lot. And I had a coworker, this dumbass hillbilly coworker of mine. He was an older guy, but he was like a senior director at the company, and he was like, "I see you on LinkedIn with all those pictures that you do," and he was giving me a hard time about it. Every day he would just pick on me for posting on LinkedIn, like clips from my podcast or whatever. And I would joke about it and laugh it off because I'm like, want to be a tough guy. But it kind of bothered me a lot. It
Yeah.
really did. And it made me think, well, if he's thinking that, other people are probably saying it too, especially in the company. And I just kept at it. And like, there were job openings that were presented to me where the hiring manager was actually in my inbox. And he was like, "Hey, I see your stuff on LinkedIn. I want to hire you." I was like, yeah, it ended up landing me a $150,000 base job. That most people will never get that because they're not talking to the right people or they haven't advanced that far in their career. I've accelerated my career because of the network I've built because I post on LinkedIn. So if you're new, if you're posting on LinkedIn, if you're getting ridiculed by your coworkers, just know that's part of the process. And the more you keep at it and figure out how to do it and get the results you want over time, the better off you'll be for it. But don't let some idiot stop you from putting yourself out there.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. That is a profound piece of wisdom to finish up with there, James. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it. It's good to catch up with you again, and I look forward to the next time we can catch up.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, man.